Yeah. Y'all, good job. All right, here we go. All right. Ladies and gentlemen, it's 6 o'clock and I'll call the meeting to order. Please let the record reflect that board members present, Mr. Robbins, Mr. Holland, and Mr. Glover. Absent are Ms. Crockett and Mrs. Jackson. If you would join me, I'm going to ask Mr. Holland to lead us in our invocation. Please remain standing for the
Let us pray. God, thank you for bringing us here tonight. Please be with this board as we make decisions. Please give us wisdom in those decisions, God. Please continue to be with our students, our teachers, administrators this week at school. Please be with all of our students as they travel on school-sponsored activities during this week. Just keep them safe on the roads. As they travel, be with the families and stakeholders as well. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
pledge of allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Gentlemen, you received the agenda for tonight's meeting. May I get a motion to approve that agenda?
Motion made.
Second. All those in favor of approving the agenda, please raise your right hand.
All right, thank you, board. First item for receiving this information, we're honored to have many of our students here tonight. Recently, Prattville High School's JROTC Unit AL-951 earned 13 awards at the 2025 Southeastern Region AFJROTC Cadet Leadership Course. Camp Wolfpack, as it's more commonly known, is one of the country's premier JROTC summer leadership schools with the mission of preparing cadets for leadership roles in their units, schools, and local communities. This intensive leadership program is designed to make cadets better leaders, followers, and team members through dedication and training in leadership, physical fitness, academics, athletics, drill, and ceremonies, self-discipline, and group dynamics. At this time, I would like to ask Dr. Ferris to come forward to recognize our cadets and our JROTC instructors. Dr. Ferris.
Thank you, Mr. Wood. First, I want to thank the Board of Education for taking time to recognize some of our students at Prattville High School. What I want to do is I want to call each student's name. If you come up, I'll read a little bit about some things you accomplished at the count. Before I do that, though, I want to speak just a moment about JROTC at Prattville High School. These students and these instructors spend an intense amount of time. After hours, extracurricular, weekends. There's not many times when I'm leaving the school, there's not someone out on the drill pad doing something or whatever. So if you don't know about JROTC, this is, they are spending as much time as your band, your athletic programs, and those things after school hours preparing to do the events they do. So I just want to congratulate them and thank them for all their hard work. And I want to thank the instructors, Major Kochick and Sergeant Scripshire, for all the time and effort you put in to support our cadets in their adventures. So thank you. All right. Our cadet Isaiah Johns. Come on up, Isaiah. I served as an executive officer, one of the top 3 positions at Count, and he earned the Exemplary Staff Cadet Leadership Award for the exemplary leadership throughout Count. Cadet Hannah Pauline served as the Squadron 2 commander here in Count. She trained, motivated, and led 2 flights with over 20 cadets. Cadet Jeffrey Wise served as the drill officer in charge during count. He trained over 40 cadets on how to properly command an unarmed regulation drill sequence with a 100% pass rate. And Cadet Nashala Davis served as a member of the Delta Flight here in count. She earned the Best Personal Inspection Award, Flight Academic Achievement Award, and Overall Academic Achievement Award. And overall, we had 15 cadets attend this year, and they earned a total of 13 awards. Congratulations.
Let's give them a big Y'all want to come in front so we can get the pictures? Ms. Thomas, you want to get a picture here? This slide over?
Just slide over.
All right, come on, guys, if you don't mind, let's slide right over. Thank you so much. Very proud of you guys. Thank y'all for what you do.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, appreciate you. Sir, thank you. Appreciate all your work. Sir, congratulations. Let's give him one more together. Guys, on behalf of the Board of Education, everybody here, thank you for what you do, and thank you for your commitment to us and serving our country and all the things you do. And my goodness, 13 awards in probably the most prestigious way that you can do them. So guys, thank you, and we appreciate all that you do for the Board of Education and for your school. Appreciate you guys. Also want to say as you're leaving, as you know, back there, of course, our military families are so important for us. And I know you guys feel the same way. It's a great feeling seeing our kids learn the skills that they need. Hopefully, we can keep them around here and serve the country. But again, immense pride that all of us have in all of our programs, but especially the JROTC program. And I appreciate all the backing you guys do and allowing them to go everywhere that they go. So, just a couple quick things before the approval of consent agenda. I want to give you some information on each item. Item number 3 contains a list of field and athletic trips that are in need of approval. Item number 4 contains a list of items that are no longer in working condition and need to be disposed. Item number 5 contains a list of supplemental pay requests. Item number 6 requests board approval for Falk & Sons Flooring to install new LVT tile throughout the school hallways at Marbury Middle School and in various spaces at Billingsley School. The flooring is to cover old quarry tile and update the facility with a more modern appearance. The vendor has a contract in place for flooring with Ottawa County Schools. The cost of the project is $66,912.50 at Marbury Middle School and $44,854.40 at Billingsley School. 2021 bond funds will be used to cover the cost of this project. I'm gonna pause right there. These are some more flooring projects we have now going that we've completed some others. We'll give you a couple of updates at the end of the superintendent report. But again, we're trying to fix as much as we can with the funds that we have at our disposal. Item number 7, request board approval for CAM Technologies to provide 340 audio gateway unit licenses. The units will be installed in all school locations as an additional safety measure. The licenses cover us for a 3-year period for all services provided through our Rhombus platform. As you know, the Rhombus platform is our camera system. The vendor is a member of the TIPS Buying Cooperative with contract number 220105. The cost of the project is $84,877.60. ATF funds will be used to cover the cost of the project. Item number 8, request approval for PCI Technologies to provide 340 audio gateway units and installation of these units. The units will be installed in all school locations as an additional safety measure. The vendor is a member of the Alabama Buys and supplier number is VC000056191. The cost of the project is $150,966.80, and ATF funds will be used to cover the cost of the project. So those 2 items there, one's for the licenses, one's for the hardware. Basically, this will allow us to have audio attached to our cameras in the hallways and in common areas. This is another way of solidifying what's actually occurring in the hallways. It's another measure of improving our security posture and due process for not only students but employees and all. So again, it's another step in the right direction for transparency with investigations. Item number 9, request approval to recommend members to serve as the Ottawa County Schools 2025-2026 textbook committee. These members are in your board packet and were recommended by each school principal to represent at the district level. Item number 10, request approval to update policy 3.21 as we previously discussed at the previous board meeting. Item number 11, request approval to update the 25-26 ACS Code of Conduct. This will be for Class C infractions under the 3rd through 6th grade band width. So there's a couple of infractions there that I just missed in the process of approving all that. It reflects everything that we've covered in work sessions, everything else. There's no student discipline that will be tied into that. Everything is smooth. It's just correcting the issue there. Item number 12 contains contracts for temporary employment as it relates to coaching positions. Item number 13 contains supplemental coaching contracts for current employees. Item number 14 requests approval for Mitchell's Contracting Service to complete additional erosion work to fill in a 60 by 80 gully and fix the slope to prevent further erosion on the hillside. This is at Marbury High School. This will be additional costs added to the already awarded Marbury erosion bid, DCM project number 2025347. The additional cost of the project is $195,749.60. Multiple fund sources will be used to cover the cost of this project. So, and I'm gonna get into this in a minute on my superintendent report as well. But as we have started fixing the issue that is the erosion problem at Marbury High School, as we're fixing one thing, we're coming across more and more issues. We can either A, patch it and deal with it in 3-4 years, or B, we can fix it so that hopefully somebody 10 years down the road is not dealing with what we're dealing with. So the original bid that went out, we thought it was just one massive hole. Now that we are starting to fix that, it actually tied into some major design flaws from 15 years ago, and we have concrete areas at the bottom of the hill that have collapsed, and all that is now led into this massive gully. It needs to be fixed. That's why the additional cost is there. It is a substantial add-on to the project.
On that, just curious on the initial, do you think it was a design flaw with it? Do you think it was building practices that led to it when everything was first built?
I'll speculative on my part, talking to the contractor and all, they do feel like there was some design issues initially. Basically what's occurring is there's so much water that's coming through there that it, very early on, it looks like it started getting around the pipe. Well, because it was so down the hill and everything was tied in all that, it started washing around the concrete, and the concrete collapsed, and it just, instead of it funneling to where it should go, it was just washing the entire building. It is massive, and, you know, when we first put that project out there, we didn't know the hole was that large. We didn't even know that that was part of it. We couldn't get down in there to see how bad it was until we fixed the top part of it. So, you know, again, I think the decision that we need to make on this item is, look, what we're doing right now does fix things for the next few years. Does it solve that problem? No. The concern I had with that hole is it's not very far from the corner of the indoor facility. And I can see, because again, we were there when it was built. I'm very familiar with that area. There was no gully when I was there coaching. I do know it started getting a little wider my last year, which was probably, 15, so around in there. And I know we started trying to figure out how to fix it, and from that time till now, it is substantial. So we can patch it, we can get it through the next few years, or we can pull together some of these money. We may have to dive into some of our general fund on this, and we can go ahead and fix it. Item number 15 is a request to utilize the remaining 2025 school year summer learning funds to purchase 232 Dell Chromebooks in the amount of $78,316.24. These devices will support all approved early year assessments, extended learning opportunities, and intervention programs as set forth by the Alabama Literacy Act and the Alabama Numeracy Act. The Chromebooks will be purchased utilizing the ALJP contract. Item number 16, request approval of the consolidated improvement plan for fiscal year 26. Item number 17, request approval to enter into an agreement with consultant for student support services. That's the end of the list on the items. Now, are there any questions with the consent agenda as presented?
Just had one on the Marbury Middle and Billingsley School, the tile. What's the time frame on that? Will it affect, like what they're doing day to day?
Mr. Mayor, do you know, have they said when they're gonna start? Yeah, most of that LBT stuff, they've been able to get in, like, if it's a 3 or 4 day window that we are out of school, they've been able to knock it out pretty quick. But what is that?
Yeah.
Thanksgiving,
The plan is
Christmas?
like we got done before the school starts, so now we schedule stuff for holidays. So they can get it done during those holiday times without any disruption.
Good deal.
Any other questions on the consent agenda? No further questions, I recommend approval of the consent agenda as presented.
Board members, you have heard the superintendent's recommendation. May I get a motion to approve?
Motion to approve.
Second.
Second.
please raise your right hand.
All right, at this time, I recommend approval of the personnel report as presented.
Board members, you have heard the superintendent's recommendation. May I get a motion to approve?
Motion to approve.
Second.
Any further discussion? All those in favor, please raise your right hand.
All right, at this time, I'd like to ask Ms. Wallace to come forward and present our August bank and financial statements. Ms. Wallace, while you're up, I'll transition into the other part of that, so instead of having you walk back and forth.
Okay. So tonight's presentation financial is, at the month of August, we should be at 92% of our budget by this point. As disclosed in your snapshot analysis, the total revenues have exceeded what our budget was. But as I mentioned in the last one, we've received over $10 million worth of supplemental funds, so that's reflective of that increase. So we've received 97.7 million revenues. Our expenditures are at 89%, or 85.7 million, which we are well within our range of what our budgeted expenditures are. Our fund balance ended, in August at 63 million. Payroll for the month was 6.9 million. Also, in your budget, in your financial analysis, the local revenues collected at this time, 21.8 million. We've exceeded our budget by 2% on that. August collections were 1.1 million, and please keep in mind that of this, over 10 million is dedicated to meet our requirements for foundation program, capital program, and any bond debt. Any questions on the financials?
All right, at this time, I recommend approval of the August bank and financial statements as presented.
Board members, you've heard the recommendation. May I get a motion?
Make a motion. Second.
Any further discussion? All in favor, please raise your right hand.
All right, Ms. Wallace, if you don't mind, go ahead and go into our 25-26 school year budget hearing.
All right, I'm gonna try to get a spot, so I know everyone's enthralled by this process. Every year you look forward to it. Nothing boring about it at all, but it is very important for us all to hear how our next fiscal year will be operating. So we're gonna present the 2026 fiscal year budget. This process involves multi-departments. We have to hold 2 public hearings. This hearing is the first. We will not vote on this. The second hearing will be Friday, and that is the hearing that we vote on. And then we get all different departments to ask and note what they need for budgetary input. We take into consideration the guidance from the State Department, state legislatures, federal, U.S. Department of Education, and the Advanced Ed. These funds require board match from the state. Our foundation program is 11 million matched, and our capital purchase is 408,000. So all this requires local tax match. So how do we receive these funds and how does our budget work? Well, we receive this based on student enrollment. Right now, it's pushed out 20 days, after Labor Day is when our ADM, our average daily membership, is what drives this. Right now, you're hearing your seat, you matter in your seat. This is where our students help us with our funding because they do matter, their attendance matters. So, and keep in mind that our ADM that we use for the 26 was actually done last fall in 25. So we're always gonna be a year behind in the enrollment numbers. So our funding this year was based upon 8,547.55. I don't know, it's an average, that's how you get that 0.55 of the student. This did show a decrease of 209 from the prior year. And so what this means is this affects our teacher units and whether you can do a lower student-teacher ratio. So what is the foundation program? A lot of times this is a little misleading. You hear a foundation and you often think of a charitable organization. For this purpose, think of the foundation as the foundation of your house. It is the basic funding that starts your school system. So the foundation program is there to ensure that every Alabama school district has opportunity for an adequate education, and it requires that level of tax support. So this is the foundation model that we use in state of Alabama for our K-12. This program provides for our teacher units provides for our instructional support units such as those principals, those assistant principals, the counselors, etc. And we also receive something called other current expense, OCE, we like acronyms, so I've tried to, lay that out for us to know. This is our support personnel, our aides, our custodians, our, office support. So that's where those funds can be utilized. And then we have classroom instructional supplies, CIS money. This is where we get, the textbook money, our instructional support funds for local schools, and teachers as it relates to professional development and technology and library. And once again, we use the meals, the 10 meals or AdVal to help support this program. So once again, it's, the foundation dollars are earned based on the 20 days after Labor Day count, the average daily membership or ADM. Now the teacher units are earned based upon divisors that have been set and that's how you earn. For every 14.25 students in K3, you earn one teacher unit. So that's how those divisors work. So this chart shows and demonstrates our average daily membership over a span of several years. You can see the ups and downs, the ebbs and flows. We did show for this year a 200 plus student decrease. We're hopeful and we think that we're gonna see next year an uptick. We won't know until we get that 20-day count this year. This is our foundation units, and this is what we earned district-wide as far as teachers, and you can see a comparison in the loss. So the loss of 200 students resulted in a loss of 14 and a half teachers. Now, you will see that we gained a principal unit and we gained a counselor unit. That is related to our virtual school being recognized as a full school this year. Last year, it was not recognized as a school, it was recognized as a program. This year, the state recognizes it as a school, so now we can earn units for this school. And this is what we receive as far as what our unit breakout is for teachers. Please keep in mind, when we say teacher units that these schools earn, this means every teacher in that building. It's not just the classroom teacher. It would be your gifted teacher, your speech teacher, your special ed teacher. It includes all teachers, your career tech teachers. So these teacher units are to be utilized for this. If you will notice in this year's breakout, you still see the toggle bill. We'll discuss that as we go. Once again, keep in mind, this is based on last year's numbers. So we're funded based on that. We have those students in the toggle bill that are now being redistricted to either the central zone or Billingsley. So what that does for us, it allows us to use the teacher units that we received in the toggle bill to go to those schools where those students were rezoned. Okay, and here you can see the breakout of what we earned based on what the state provided for our teacher materials, technology, library, etc. Please keep in mind, this is what the state provides for our teacher money, but ACPOE believes that we should provide every teacher with that funding source, whether we earn that unit or not, so we do provide over and beyond for that. Because our teachers that are listed under federal programs, that means we don't earn teacher units for that teacher support. So, but we do provide using other fund sources to help with that. And this is a breakdown of the state foundation program and the several other state programs that we receive money for. And you'll see that in a bigger slide later so you can really see what that is. It's hard with the print sometimes. And then once again, our match. Okay, so to understand how the budgeting works, we have several different accounting departments that we have to utilize. We have to use general fund, that is for our state funds and our taxes. The special revenue fund, that is for our federal, our local schools, and our child nutrition program. The capital project speaks for itself, debt services speaks for itself, and then you have the fiduciary fund, and that is our non-public school funds, or if we are holding something in trust to be utilized for our students, such as a scholarship. Okay, so this is our proposed budget for each one of those fund sources. $89 million in revenues for general fund, 16.4, and special debt service 2.5, capital projects 1.5, and fiduciary 597. Total revenues budgeted at this time are 110 million. For our expenses, general fund 101, special revenue 15 million, debt service 2.7, capital projects 1.5, and fiduciary 504,000, with a total expenditures of 121,000. So the general fund holds those property taxes, it does school personnel salaries and benefits, AD supporting departments such as maintenance and technology, central registration, etc. So here's the breakout of our revenues in the general fund. This federal relates to the ROTC program that we had tonight. This is where we house those funds to support. These are the revenues that we receive. We have a match that we participate with the ROTC program. The military sends us a portion, we match it with another portion. So they do count in our teacher units. And then once again, our local revenues budgeted at 21.5 million. So you can see in our general fund, the majority of our revenues that we receive is all state, about 75% of it. And then here's the breakout. Property tax for local revenues, we're budgeting at the 11 million that we have to match with our ad valorem. That went up $1 million from this current year. So there's a formula based. You hear all the time, well, there's more houses, there's more rooftops. Well, even though there's more rooftops, that means that our match, our property match, goes up with those rooftops. Our sales tax, you'll see, I've got budgeted at 9.3. SSUT that we receive from the commission, 395,000, and the city sales tax that we get a portion of that 1 cent at 720,000. And then you have our other miscellaneous revenues. So keep in mind, this year, the legislature did an additional program, the RAISE Act. We're expected to see this in the future. So this is in addition to the foundation program. This year, we received, first year going, Autauga County received 1.5 million. There are very specific categories that these funds are involved in. We have a poverty category, a gifted, an English learners, and a special ed. The special ed has 3 tier levels based upon the divisions and descriptions that the state put on those tiers. So we do have this year that we've allocated. Now, with the RAISE Act, what this did was it eliminated some other state grants that we used to get. So we used to get a separate EL grant, we no longer receive it, it's rolled up into this. We used to get a separate gifted grant, we no longer get it, it's rolled into this. We used to get, a high hopes grant and an at-risk grant, that's now rolled up into the poverty. So just so you know how that's working. Other state funds that we do receive, we receive nursing funds. Our transportation department, received 6.4 million. Sounds like a lot, it is, but transportation is not 100% funded from the state. It varies year to year from anywhere from 80 to 85%, and whatever this does not cover, then local revenues picks up the difference. We receive funds, a portion for technology coordinator. We have a career tech, operations and maintenance state grant that we received. We received an early years learning grant for math and reading. We now have math coaches at 5 of our schools. Last year, we had math coaches in 1 or 2. This year, now we have it in 5. We received funding for those math coaches at 90,000. That is not enough to cover all salaries and benefits for those math coaches, so we have to offset that with additional funds. We received, funding for 6 reading coaches at 85,000. That is not sufficient to cover all salary benefits, so we do have to cover it with other funds as well. And then we have our 9 pre-K sites that this year we saw an increase in what they received. So they received 117,000 per site. So we have some functional expenditure areas. We have instructional support, operations, auxiliary, general admin, capital outlay, debt, and other. So our expenditures in the general fund by function go as this. We have 70 million that we budget in instructional. That's instructional, direct instructional support. Our, operations and maintenance, we have 9.7 million, and our auxiliary 6.8, general admin 4 million, capital outlay 6.3. That is what we have to transfer from the general fund over into to help support with the debt. Total of 101 million. So as you can see on our expenses, almost 70% is related to instructional services. And that is what our general fund should be doing, providing those instructional services. Any questions thus far?
I do want to ask one thing, Ms. Wallace. Can you kind of explain real quick, I know our revenue versus expenditure on the surface, it looked like our expenditures are about 11 million more than revenue. Just since it's public and let everybody know, that looks bad on paper, there's a reason. Can you
Yes,
kind of
sir.
explain that real quick?
Yes, sir. So I've got some slides about that. We received, you've heard me talk about the additional supplemental funds that we received. We received 10.8 million, already in August and September. We've received that revenue for those expenses to be used in the 26 year. So therefore, I've got the expenses budgeted in the upcoming year, but the revenues have already been received. So that skews those expense and revenue numbers.
So in reality, they're pretty equal expenditures, revenue, but I just feel like we probably need to.
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Here is just a slide to demonstrate our salaries and benefits. The majority of our budget that we do in general fund, about 80% of it is people. That's what our budget is. Our main expense is people, because that's what we are. We are people. We're servicing the children. So as you can see, we saw a slight uptick in the cost. The reason for that is we did not see any raises this year from the state, but we did see a PHIP insurance increase. So PHIP has been $800 per month per employee that the board has to pay for years. This year, it increased by $104, so now it's $904 per employee per month that the board has to pay, whether you utilize the insurance or not. So it's $10,848 a year per person that the board has to support. So that's the reason for your, increases. So supplemental funds, as we were just discussing, we received the revenues in 25, we got the expenses in 26, and this is the breakdown of these expenses. Advancement technology funds, that's what we utilize, as Mr. Woodson spoke earlier about these flooring projects and the painting and the redoing. These are these one-time, we can't guarantee this every year funds that we can use for deferred maintenance or capital outlay. So we're taking full advantage of this and utilizing it to get our facilities up to par for this. We received an additional textbook supplement of $32,000. Now keep in mind, we only receive in our regular foundation $100 per textbook. You can't buy a textbook for $100. And this past year, we had a science adoption. This coming up year, we're gonna have a social studies adoption. So this gets very costly. The state did give us additional textbook money, but it's probably still not gonna be enough to support what all we do need. And then we have $349,000 that we received for summer and after-school programs. So just to talk about our plans for the ATF funds, well, as we've talked about, we've got the Billingsley Ag Center coming off of these funds that we received last year, that we are continuing this project. The Marbury erosion, Prattville High Field House, and the Prattville High bathroom renovations. For the upcoming year, we will continue to utilize it for the, Billingsley Ag Center. Potential metal buildings throughout the school district, that bid's in process. That varies, when I said metal buildings generically, that can be storage buildings, it can be whatever we need to service our district. We also have potential for pitching and heating facilities. We have our insurance that's coming out of this, safety equipment, technology and computer upgrades, educational software renewals, and, any other small deferred maintenance projects. For a second, let's talk about the software renewals. We were very fortunate with ESSER funds that we were allowed to pay for software, required instructional software that we have to utilize in our district. We got to pay for it for a couple of years. Well, it ends in 2026. So now we're gonna have to prepare to, redo those subscriptions for those instructional software pieces. So I have that budgeted out of these funds, so I don't have to utilize my general fund for that. Any questions about this? Now, these are all subject to change as funding changes, okay? This is not locked in stone. I do have to submit approval to the State Department every time we change this, but if we need to make a modification due to cost or something coming in higher, then we can modify this. This is just the game plan for now. Our local revenues are budgeted at 22 million. Once again, we have to do the ad val match of 11 million, our capital match at 408,000, and our CMP pass-through at 2.3. The CMP pass-through, we are required to support our child nutrition program, CMP, if they cannot self-sustain themselves. Which means, we can't let them run into the deficit. So each year, there's a formula we fill out. If we had to 100% support our CMP program, it would cost us 2.3 million. Now, I work with, Ms. Seegers, the CMP director, we review. In the last couple of years, we've not had to send more than 800,000, and it's based on how each school's program works. Your secondary programs, usually, or at a loss, the students aren't eating at the cafeteria as much as your lower schools are. So those are usually the school levels that we have to support with that. But we are, but that would be, if we had to do 100%, what that would be. So, this is what our ad val has looked like, and based upon what we were required to match. Once again, it's all about rooftops and the formula. Now, in the 2024 year, our match was 10 million, but we received more because the city was growing and growth happened, so we received more than that. When I receive more than what I'm required to match, that goes into our general fund, our local monies, not toward the state match. In 2025, our match requirement was 10,060,000. I have met that, and then anything extra that we receive, we will get to tuck in our general fund. We've received a little bit over it, but not like we saw in the 24 year. Yes, this is our projected match, and what I have budgeted in our ad val tax is exactly what we're required to match. Based upon the trends that I'm seeing and the collections that we're taking, I will be surprised if we exceed that, and if we do, it won't be by a whole lot. But as we go through the year and as we see what collections come in, this number will be reported to you at your monthly financial reports. Sales tax. Since 2023, I'm seeing a decrease of 1 million in sales tax a year.
Do you have data on
I don't have concrete data, I can only have speculation. So, this is sales tax that is spent in Autauga County, not Prattville City. Prattville crosses 2 counties. So, our county line draws in the middle of the car dealership. Anything past that is Elmore County, and that's not our sales tax. So we're only getting sales tax on what is down in that area. The difference is what's available to shop at.
And they wrote it online. We're also losing when
And then everyone goes online and you get the sales tax going toward the online sales tax.
So just for the citizens watching and the two that are here, okay? What you're saying is if you go past Larry Puckett, you've gone too far to help our students.
Yes, sir. You're now providing the sales tax for Elmore County.
That's important to know.
We lost $2 million in 2 years. I mean, that's wild.
Yes, sir. And at this point, for just the sales tax, I think we're just gonna break even. I've got one more month of collection of just sales tax. You see that breakdown in your monthly financial. We're gonna break even on sales tax.
And why that's so important is, that is our excess funds. I mean, we don't have 15 mills that we can pay to 10 and pocket whatever 5. What we bank on is extra sales tax, so, and I'll get some stuff in a minute, some questions surprised me a lot. That definitely changes how you have to view things moving forward because you're not gonna have that buffer.
So, just know a little bit about the nature of retail. Okay, let's look at everywhere in Prattville, Watauga County that Walmart has been located. Okay, now the original location is now like a flea market or something, okay, by the Bowling Alley. Then it moved a quarter mile of the road, maybe. Okay, so if Walmart gets ready to build another Walmart location in Prattville, logic would say it's not gonna be in Watauga County. Right?
Possibly.
Okay. And that's the largest tax coffer that I know Watauga County has.
Yes, sir.
Something to really keep an eye on.
Yes, sir. That's why, in preparing for this really struck me. I was very shocked when I started going back, I came in the middle of the 23 fiscal year. So, not knowing past or whatever, so I started, looking at trends for what I could find good, solid information on. So this was very shocking to me to know that, hey, you're losing $1 million every year. And later on in the presentation, I'll tell you exactly what this sales tax covers expense-wise.
Can I ask you a quick question on that? Board members think it's important, we stepped out on a limb to try to find ways to raise additional money. And we've talked about the sweep account quite a bit. Here's the reality of that chart. Yes, we're projecting $2 to $2.5 million extra out of the sweep account that we were hoping to roll that into other things. The reality of that chart shows we can't go full in on that because we may have to use some of that excess to bridge some of the gap. Now, I'm gonna bring you guys hopefully very soon, some ideas on maybe some instructional supplements, for teachers across the county, but it definitely alters what our plans are. We need a year to see, does that trend continue, to really be able to plan out that. Now, I think after this fiscal year, and you have this sweep account, you have all these things, you have a little more stability. At that point, you can start making some hopefully bolder choices to help our people out, but that chart changed some of our thought process.
Okay, so in talking about our local taxes, this is typically what we use for. So the excess ad valorem tax has always come into this pot. As you can see, this pot is now only budgeted for $465,000. And I've got a load of expenses. So what this tells me is during my amendment, I got to shift all of this. When I started doing the calculations, we'd already done it, and so I just decided we're gonna leave it, because we need to see. We need the visual. So out of this, our pass-through comes out of it if we have to use 100% of that. Second chance, that program, we have to self-support it. We receive no state dollars for that. Our pre-K program, as needed, if they don't have a sufficient amount that they receive from the state, we support it. Transfers to local schools, we transfer funds to local schools to help them out, as far as their additional pay. Transportation, when the state funding is not sufficient, all of our driver's ed and maintenance vehicles and, such as that, we have to cover the cost for that. We are required to have a Perkins match, that's based upon, Perkins is career tech. We're required to have a match related to the number of head count that participates in our career tech area. And grounds and athletic trainers come out of this. We have athletic trainers that we have to support our athletic program. We have to, pay for that. Out of the 1 cent sales tax that we receive countywide, we have 6.3 budgeted, expected revenues. Our expenses right now are at 5.3. This covers, payroll for central office, directors, superintendent, CSFO. It covers all of their professional development, all of the office supplies up in that area because those are not state funded per se. It covers all of our legal bills, all athletic, paid supplements, centralized support, PD for those that we can't utilize other funds for. our security services that we have the agreement with the SRO with the county commission. And then maintenance comes out of this and technology comes out of this. Out of our half cent, that the commission gave to us extra years later, I've got revenues at 3.5, expenses at 3.1. That will probably change because all that goes into this is maintenance and utility bills. That's it. So if you think about it, for our whole entire district, our maintenance and utility is taking up this whole half cent sales tax. Our SSUT tax, that is the online purchases, we received a percent of that from the county commission. We're very fortunate that our county commission did an agreement with us because not many in the state have that. And so we did get a small percent, of this. We use this for our schools outside the city limits. We use it to send money directly to the school to help with their local operations, custodial, field trips for their specific programs. The individual schools receive a school improvement account, so the principal can decide what school improvements outside of what we may be doing at a central office level that they would like to do. So, that's what that covers. The next tax is the city 1 cent that we receive a percent of. I think it's 12 or 8, I can't remember, there was a lot of discussion about that. These funds budgeted $720,000. This is less what the cost for SROs are. Typically, we would receive about $1 million. SROs cost in the central zone cost about $300,000. City takes that off the top. We receive $720,000. We do the same thing with this funds that we do for SSUT, except these go to all the schools in the central zone. So we are direct supporting those schools. So our total revenues, 89 million, total expenses, 101. We talked about that deficit. That deficit, 10.8 million, it's money that we've already received. So then it still puts us over, but that is if we had to use 100% of the CMP pass-through, which I don't think we will, but I have to budget it just in case. So I suspect we're gonna have a break-even year next year. But with that said, once I expense and use all the prior supplemental funds, we're looking at an ending fund balance of 42.6 million. Special revenues, these are our federal programs and CMP and local school public funds. We have a proposed revenue for 17 million. The breakout here is the federal grants that we receive, local school and other, and then CMP. So here, this chart gives you a breakdown of what each federal program is expected to receive. And the change, either up or down, we received a slight increase in Title I, a slight increase in Title II, a good increase in Title IV. Now you'll see this grant, Stronger Connections, is no longer available. So that's an example of some of the grants that went away once we got the RAISE Act. Our Career Tech and our special ed, we talk about this every year. Our special ed federal funds decrease every year. And some of that's related to our direct start numbers and CEP numbers. CEP is the continuing eligibility program that we utilize through our child nutrition to provide free meals for everyone. These are the breakout of the revenue expenses. The special revenue fund expenses, we see about 6.9 in instructional, operations 300,000, auxiliary 7.7. The auxiliary, that's where your CMP is going to reside. General admin 155,000, other 858 for a total of 15.9 million. So once again, in the federal expenses, you'll see that the majority is instructional because that's what it's there. Federal is there to supplement what we have from the state and local. So we're looking at 17 million in revenues, 15.9 in expenses. We're looking to see revenues exceed by 1.1 million, with an increase in fund balance at 3.9. Our debt service, this is related to debt that we, have for construction, infrastructure, et cetera. So we use our state capital funds to cover, the cost of these, debt, of these bonds that we have. This year we received 2.5 million in state capital funds. Of that, we've got 909,000 going, to the 2015, 379,000 to the 2008 bond, 21,000 to the QSCAP, 138 for GAP, that's insurance coverage, and I will go into detail on a slide about all of that. We also use our bond debt for our fleet renewal, with two of our bonds that we have, we, took out for buses, and so we received fleet renewal to assist with bus purchases, but instead our fleet renewal is utilized for the bond payment that we have. So the 2008 bond, it's an old state bond, so at times, sometimes the state of Alabama will take out a bond and allow local schools to participate, and apparently we did. And so this was related for capital repairs. Then the QSCAP, once again, that's an old state bond that we participated on, for capital repairs. Our 2015 bond was for capital outlay and roof projects. Our 2018 bond, we did bus purchases and roof repairs. In 2021, the bond was for buses and the new kindergarten school. So our 2015, I'm really proud of how, Mr. Woodfin's leadership, and vision went with this. We applied for the Capital K-12 grant with the Lieutenant Governor. We were awarded and we were able to set up an escrow. So we received that, and we don't have to pay on the principal for 2 years. It covered it for us, which gave us a little reprieve so we could build up our general fund. We won't have to pay principal until 2027. So for the bond debt that we have, what's coming out, we still have to pay the interest for it. And then we have our 18 bond interest, our 18 bond principal does not start until the 2015 bond is gone. And the 2021 principal does not start until the 2018 bond is gone. So you're only seeing interest payments as it relates to our bonds. Our fleet renewal, we received 894,000, and we do pay principal for the bus related bond on the 2018 and the 2021 bond. Now let me say this much, if our bond debt does not take up the full amount of this, or the full amount of this, then we get to put that in a separate fund and build upon it so we can use it to buy buses or to do a capital project. That's one of the few state funds that we do get to roll over and carry over. So, 2015 bond, and we will pick payments back up in 27. The date of liquidation is 2028 on this. The 2018 bond, the date of liquidation is 2032. And the 2021 bond, the date of liquidation is 2051. But keep in mind, in 2028, we will no longer have this bond. In 2008, the old pool bonds, that ends in 29, and the QSCAP ends in 27. So in the next 3 years, we will eliminate 3 different bond debts. That's good, because it allows us to free up those funds we've had to delegate for that, for whatever future needs that we may do down the road. So, with that, we're looking at ending, with transfer and bond debt, and we are seeing an excess of, showing an increase to 6.1. Whatever I end up not having to use, we will transfer that back out. Capital projects fund, that once again, it kind of saves itself, it's for acquisition or construction. And so whatever the remainder of our, bond funds that we have on the 21, we're using with roof repairs, painting, flooring, safety fencing, et cetera, throughout the district. A lot of that is what you're hearing, when Mr. Whitman's presenting, at each monthly board meeting. And so we see that we should not see an increase or decrease. What we've got going into this account is what we've got going out, because we've, dedicated that to projects. The expendable trust, that's where our, local school non-public activity is housed. We're looking at revenues at our local schools of 597 and expenses of 504. That's usually your booster clubs or your PTAs or anything that is not a state-funded source. It could be donations, etc. This also includes, though, our Elizabeth Steer Scholarship. We hold, the interest of that scholarship that's held in trust on our books. That scholarship is given out at the end of each year, but we hold that on our books. So that is a part of this fund. So proposed for all funds, total revenues, all funds, 111 million, total expenses, all funds, 121 million, showing a deficit of all funds, of 10 million. Once again, that's that supplemental that we got, and we'll keep on harping on that, because that looks ugly, but there's a rhyme and a reason for it. So we're showing that our ending fund balance for all funds should be 60.3 million. Now, notes to note about this budget: student enrollment greatly affects what we receive. We won't know the outcome until 20-day account, but we're hoping that we will see an increase. Otagoville closing, well, that came a redistribution of the state funds. So the funding that we received for Otagoville went to the schools where those students were rezoned for. The units were placed at those schools. So for every centralized zone school in Billingsley that received Otagoville students, we transferred teacher units that we had earned through Otagoville to those schools to help. We staffed this year at wants and needs and not necessarily just like what they earned. What we were trying to do, our goal this year was, all right, let's staff you for what you need. Like in the perfect world, let's utilize this opportunity to take this redistribution and staff you for what you need. And because what we're anticipating or hoping that those units then will now follow those schools where we have redistributed. This year, we elected to serve all of our schools with the exception of Ava with Title I funds. A virtual school will not qualify for Title I funds. Now, not all of our schools met the poverty percentage. We are required to serve schools if they have a 75% or more poverty. But what we saw was an opportunity for us to supplement our schools to help them with their technology needs or their instructional needs at those schools, especially our secondary levels that don't often have those additional supplemental funds to do so. Federal budget challenges. We're just going to keep in mind, anytime you have a K-12 school in one building, they never earn enough units. So we have to utilize our Title I to support Billingsley. Billingsley, we have 6.5 teacher units coming out of Title I to help support their school. Our federal revenues are decreasing and potentially going away. We had a small scare this summer. We were told we were not getting Title II or Title IV. Title II money is used for our professional development in the district. And that was gonna be a huge blow because that was what all had to come out, that 400-something thousand that we received was all going to come out of local, because we have to make sure that our teachers have that professional development that they're required. So we run a risk of losing some funds altogether or seeing decreases. Our child nutrition program, CEP, where all children eat free, we could potentially see that going away based upon what the changes in Washington affect. They're changing the percentages. When we started this, you could be like 43% and participate. Now they're changing it to 70. They're moving that line. So we may not qualify in the future. It's not a decision necessarily that we make or not make. We may be forced into it. So we have to wait and see how that's going. We do expect to see their revenues that the child nutrition program receives for this program to decrease. So we do expect that, because of the changes in this. And speaking with Ms. Seegers, she does expect to see a slight decrease in revenues. Our state challenges, we do have to utilize some teacher units for assistant principals, counselors. Not all schools earn those positions, they may earn half. And so, we do have to utilize our teacher unit funding that we receive in the foundation program to assist with that. We're seeing a constant increase in special ed, not only here but across the state. We never receive sufficient special education funds to support those students and those teachers. And so that is a huge budget challenge. Another budget challenge coming from state funds, summer programs. How are we supposed to support those continuously? Now, we did receive a supplemental. It's not always enough to support those extra, the literacy, the math programs that we do have to provide, the tutoring. We've already talked about this, instructional materials and software. It's very costly. Millions that we have to support. And so that's the cost of textbooks. We also have to consider these other challenges such as the CHEES Act and the charter school challenges. The CHEES Act will impact our funding. We will lose money based upon those students and those families that choose to participate in the CHEES Act. We will lose $7,000 per eligible student that enrolls in a participating program. If it is a homeschool, we will lose $2,000 per student. Also, keep in mind, charter schools have access to foundation program funds, which in turn decreases ours. Charter schools potentially could start receiving more funds from local dollars in the future. Charter schools this year did receive an additional $10.3 million to assist their schools. So all of this impacts because it takes away from what we receive as a local school district. Local challenges are technology infrastructure. Y'all know technology moves fast. By the time you get it, it's probably almost outdated. We're constantly having to update with devices, with access points, with Wi-Fi, with fiber. Not only that, also with security of our technology. Fraud's a big deal. We have to make sure that that's secure. Also monitoring of what our students are utilizing. You have a monitoring. So all of that, that's a challenge coming forward. A small support staff for maintenance and technology serving a district of this size. We have small departments in that area. So we have to look at ways to handle that, support that. And then new this year, the paid parental leave, PPL. This law was effective July 1st to go into effect, but reimbursement won't take place until October going future forward. So any of those employees that received, had an opportunity to utilize this, the school, our district will have to handle August and September's. We will only receive $120 per day, but it costs our district between $135 and $145. So even going forward, we will feel the effects of the difference from what the state's providing versus what we have to pay out. Capital projects is always a big one. Bus prices are increasing. We're currently using our bus renewal fees, funds to do bonds. So we can't build up a big enough, savings account, so to speak, to direct purchase. But the buses are exponentially increasing every year. I think we're up to 140-something thousand for just one bus. So that's always important to keep in mind because that's a challenge that we're gonna have to look at. Because we bought buses, mass bulk bonds, they'll all roll off at the same time for funding. So we're gonna have to figure out how to replace those large numbers that we purchased. I won't know right now. We probably won't know until the spring, to be quite honest, what it's gonna look like down the road.
Mr. Woodford?
Yeah, I think the decision that's coming, is even if the qualifications don't change to kick us out, the way the program is running, it is gonna cost us money to continue. So, you know, right now, Ms. Lawson, put you on the spot, what are we projecting to pass through the CFP this year, about 800,000?
No, this year, this fiscal year that
Yeah, what was it?
what I'm ending in, they're only gonna need 200,000.
So 200,000.
Next year, it may be 800 to 1 million.
So that's what I mean by costing us more is if we can budget I believe it's 2.7 or 2.3 in the budget, and we're only using 200,000, well, we effectively added 2 million to the general fund. But to run the program, if it's gonna cost us 800,000 and pass through, then effectively it costs you another $600,000. I think those are the decisions that are coming for us as a board is, having to look at it in those terms. Even if they don't change the percentage requirement and manually force out districts, that's the reality a lot of districts are gonna have to decide, is do we do it or not, based on how much pass through.
And keep in mind, that change is gonna come down. It will not be a change that perhaps we can,
And I'll say that, the struggle with that program, I think we would all agree, we've all said, hey, that, the program benefits all our kids, so we all, in our families, we wanna continue it. But the program has changed since we installed it a few years ago, and it is affecting our special education funding, and we are footing more of the bill for sped services now out of the general fund and other areas. It's something we're going to evaluate as we move forward.
What are your thoughts? You know, I know over the past year when we did community meetings, of saying that, hey, the fed dollars, ESSER, everything that we've been paying, maintenance fee, you know, of technology programs on, and then kind of shocking with the sales tax dropping the way it is. What's the outlook on other programs and decisions that are gonna need to be made?
I'll say this, I feel like we've made the budgetary decisions over the last 2.5 years, I guess, now that we've all been together. We're in really solid financial shape. Day-to-day operation, I feel good. It's some of the unknown. I'll give you a different example to give you a little different perspective. So during COVID and the transition to digital learning, it was encouraged to buy all the digital textbooks. Well, here's the train wreck that's coming. Our licenses are running out. The textbook companies are charging us several $100,000 to renew the same licenses we just did. You're only getting $100 per se for each child in your district for textbooks. I mean, you're staring at the possibility of now, do we just go back to old school and have hard copy textbooks because you're going to have to buy them over the next few years anyway? That's talking to other superintendents. These are the decisions that a lot of us are having to make now is, here's the unintended consequence of making some of these decisions, the things you don't see until you start living it a few years. The textbook decision alone is gonna, you're looking at, I mean, next, when we start adopting social studies, you're gonna look at having to pull about probably $1 million or so out of ATF funds to either A, renew those licenses enough to make sense, or B, to cover the cost of the textbooks. Personally, I'm not crazy about digital books. I prefer kids having them in their hands. I understand why we've done that, but that's just a small snapshot of what we're staring at. Day-to-day operationally, I'm telling you, I feel very good with what we've done. You know, I would feel very confident saying, based on Ms. Wallace's leadership and how we're doing things, yeah, we're projecting the general fund to have about 60 million next year. I would be surprised if it's 60. I would imagine it'd probably be like right now. It'd probably be more than that because we're very good at doing what we do, managing money. But there are some decisions that are coming that are going to impact some of that. You're just not getting the level of funding to meet the needs that you need. That's fact. And the sales tax portion of that, that's a big part of this piece of pie that I had no idea until we started going through this process. That is the one thing out of everything that kind of shocked me on some of this. And it's nobody's fault. It just is what it is. And that is the buffer, and that buffer is disappearing. Thankfully, again, like I said, we put some things in place day to day where I think we have a backup plan. I was hoping to use the backup plan to meet other needs. So I think we're gonna be fine. To answer your question, we just need to go through this budget this year. Let's get a year after honestly closing the toggle, let's get some real data on what that looks like, let's look at a year of budgeting schools for their needs, not, needs and wants, not just, hey, what you earn. We did a lot of big things this past year to further what our schools can do, so, I don't know if I answered your question, I kind of rambled there, but, it's just, there's some things there with sped costs and textbook costs and CEP discussions. Those three things right there, I can tell you, the CEP is probably gonna cost you about $500,000. The textbooks are probably gonna cost you about $1 million. Off the top of your head, you're looking at an unintended consequence of anywhere from $1 to $3 million to continue what you're doing. Those are the decisions we're about to make. We won't know it until we get going through this year to see what it really projects out.
We'll just have to decide what the priorities are, and if it looks differently, well, then what they could be.
Yeah.
I think we're gonna have to have just, not for shock value, but we're gonna have to have some awareness of what things could and go, okay, we wanna do this, maybe we can't, we have to substitute it with something else, and I think we're just gonna have to have backup plans.
Our job is to plan for worst case scenario and hope that you get at the end of the year, like we are right now. We're in pretty good shape. I mean, I don't want this to be all doom and gloom, but the point of the budget is to look at worst case scenario. And right now, there's a couple factors that came down in the last month and a half, 2 months that quite frankly, I was not ready to see until now. You know what I'm saying? Like, there's just been some changes at the federal level, state level. I feel good with the ship that we built to get us to here. I think that's gonna be the model moving forward. The question's gonna be, as we build the fund and as we look at things, what are our priorities as a district? Do we look at facilities and look at what we're doing bond debt? I'm not crazy about rolling that stuff and kicking the can. The reality is our facilities are so bad, we can't continue on this path, we all know. I'll say this, we got an estimate the other day to fix a restroom and to renovate the special education room at Prattville Junior High. That estimate came in at $1.1 million. There's never a world where I thought that would be the cost for that. So our reality that we're facing, and what Ms. Wallace is talking about, things we gotta decide, is with the shape that a lot of our facilities are in, if it's gonna cost that kind of money to renovate, well, then you look at building costs. Building costs right now is $400 to $450 per square foot. The reality is, we're gonna have to make a decision soon as a district on where we're gonna go and try to get there, and there's gonna be unintended consequences from this.
Let me just say this, I'm really confident and feel good with this budget, but a lot of the conversation that I throw in this budget is because I feel like it's my job for me not to think about just this fiscal year coming up. I've done budget, I'm done with that fiscal year, I'm thinking 3 to 5 years down the road. I feel like it's my responsibility to make sure that we have things set up for whatever your vision and your plan is. So I mentioned our challenges and concerns because as you all as a board are thinking about what your priorities are, that needs to be in the back of your mind. I would be not doing my job if I just said it was all flowers and rainbows. It is, but yet it could not be at a moment.
I think that's important for everyone to understand too. I think that, the information we're given does sound pretty good, like you were saying, the day-to-day operations, but the goalposts keep moving on you. And to me, that's kind of the common thread that I see through this. Federal funding changing, the percentages of different things that you used to get that now you're not. And I don't see that change ending, you know what I'm saying? And so I think it's a testament to you and your team, obviously, that you do think of these things in advance. And the work that you guys have done to just establish this budget is great, and you're gonna have to keep it up.
It is a team effort, and it's a team effort by everybody, not just the people in my department, but the other departments, and having that conversation and dialogue. And, and them putting up with me during budget season, because I'm always, happy-go-lucky during budget season. That's not hard at all. So but it is a great effort, and it's having those conversations. And I think that that's what I appreciate about this school system, is that we have those conversations. No one's afraid to go, okay, I really gotta have this, but what can I do for X, Y, Z? And I appreciate those department heads and those central office administrators administrators working with me on that and understanding and taking time to learn. Because, you know, this is a lot of number stuff and that may be out of somebody's comfort zone. But I can honestly say that everyone tries and they want to learn, they want to be able to support and do their area. And so I'm very appreciative to the extended team that I work with.
Any other questions on the budget? Ms. Wallace, thank you for that. We will also do the second budget hearing on Friday morning at 8 a.m. as required by guidelines. So, if you have any questions, make sure you come back Friday morning at 8 a.m. and we'll do it again.
In a shortened version.
It'll be much shorter, that's right. All right, so, just to wrap it up today, tonight, board members, just a couple of things on the superintendent report. First, I want to thank Pine Level Elementary. I want to thank the town of Pine Level and Mayor Bigley. They gave Pine Level Elementary $10,000 that the school is going to use for ACAP testing materials and equipping students for their ACAP testing. Got to give them a huge shout out. They've reached out numerous times wanting to know how they can help the schools, and again, that occurred, and we're very thankful for that. Also want to commend Mayor Gillespie and the Parks and Rec Department and Prattville Police Department with working with us on the Stanley Jensen games. It's been really, really good. There's been numerous police officers there helping us out, and Mayor Gillespie and the Parks Rec and everybody's working together with us on that. And I hope our families are having a great experience at the ball field, and we're off to a really good start there. Just a couple of quick facility updates. Billingsley's Livestock Lab continues to move forward. There's extensive road work that has been done. We're in the process of trying to get that portion of the project completed. Prattville High School restrooms, we are waiting on a date for a re-inspection. The contractor has to complete the punch list and pass the final inspection. We did have an issue there. He's having to go in there and fix some things on the punch list and fix some things on the inspection. So we are cautiously optimistic this next one will go well. I appreciate our families and students working with us on that. It's been very little of an interruption. They've done a really good job navigating that. I gave you a slight update earlier on the Marbury erosion process, but again, tonight's approval just moves us closer to fixing the issue. The erosion issues, like have been compounding over many years, and I do feel very good with this last phase. I feel very good that we will close the book on that erosion issue that Mr. Holland and I have been dealing with for 20 years.
Since the school was built.
Yes. Daniel Pratt, Prattville Primary Schools, both have received new floors. Prattville Primary has a few areas that we will address over Thanksgiving and Christmas break, but highly encourage the families to go check out the flooring. It looks really, really good. Roofing projects will start across the district very soon. This will hopefully close out the roofing project for a while. This was something that the previous board started and we continued, and everybody's worked real hard on that. So really looking forward to closing that out. Our remaining ATF funds, Ms. Wallace hit on this a little bit. You'll have some bids go out before long, and hopefully I'll have something to bring to you for discussion and possible approval. But we're looking to use the remaining ATF funds to roll into a substantial project that'll go out for bid in hopefully September or October. I hope to address several of our facility issues that have been needed, quite frankly, over many, many years. Some of these will be, like Ms. Wallace alluded to, storage areas, but also we're really looking at trying to make sure our venues are equitable and meet all Title IX requirements, and we're going to really key in on our auxiliary sports and female facilities to make sure we're all up to date and on par. So really excited about those changes coming. Hopefully we'll get some good numbers on the bids, and they're not astronomical. I will caution you on that. I mean, that's what we're seeing, guys. I'm not being ugly. Had a very good meeting with our local delegation the other day. They're awesome to work with, and that's why I told them, I said, the biggest struggle we're facing right now is we're so thankful to have the ATF funds and these other funds, but let's say we get 10 million ATF, well, they really spend like 1 million. Does that make sense? Because the cost of everything is so high, and that is the dilemma, is how do you navigate that moving forward? So I'm hopeful on these projects. I hope they come in reasonable. We may have to pick and choose and rank stuff out like we've done with all these other things, but at least I hope our people see that there is a plan in place, and we're just going to keep on chopping the issues down and try to solve things. So that's all I have. Are there any questions on the superintendent report?
Being no further business, now get a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
All in favor, signify by raising your right hand. You are adjourned.